What is up, guys? I'm Kyle at Fortune. Today we're installing a new front bumper on the Colorado. Anytime I get a new truck, one of the first things I want to do is throw some bumpers on there. Obviously, they help with clearance, they can hold a winch, all that stuff, but let's get down to it. They honestly just look awesome. They change the whole look of your vehicle, so I was really looking forward to throwing one on the Colorado. The one I wanted to go with is the Octane series bumper from Chassis Unlimited. During the holiday season, they had a huge discount. It was like 15% off and free shipping. It worked out great for me. I ended up ordering a front and rear bumper. Both got shipped to my house for free. I thought it was an excellent deal, and I'm really excited to throw this front bumper on there. The bumper is made from 3/16 steel. It comes in 3 pieces, can hold a winch, and it also has spots for 6 different 3-inch light pods. So I think we're gonna be able to get a lot out of this bumper, especially the ground clearance. If you remember one of my earlier videos, I talked about how I didn't take the Colorado on a trail run because the air dam on the stock front bumper is so low, we probably couldn't even get over a rock that was like 3 or 4 inches high. So we decided not to take it, but now we are going to have a huge wide open wheel well to get up on those rocks if and when we need to. All right, so let's get to tearing this front bumper and grille off the truck, put the bumper together, and then we'll throw it on the truck and see how everything looks. Once you get this liner pulled back, you can see there's this vertical support right here. Bottom side of it going up, you can see that bolt right there. We got to take that piece out for the support right here. All right, now if you look up here, you can see those 3 8mm screws. Those got to come out. All right, so the directions here say that this is an 8mm, but mine was definitely a 7mm. So hopefully that'll save you some time. It took me forever to realize why it kept skipping over, but that was the reason. I ended up having to get a little creative too. The front one is so far up there. I had to use a pretty long extension, one of these guys, to get in there. So the directions make it seem like it just pops off real easy. I ended up having to undo all these Torx screws up top too. But right here, you can see why it wasn't coming off. There's this little notch that has to be bent on that tab so it can go through. And that's all around on the bottom of this grill. That's what you got to do to get it off. Got the grill snapped back in there, and we've got both of the wings put on the center section of the bumper. Now it's time to make sure everything's ready to bolt up, and we're going to throw some tape on Colorado here around the lights and this part right here, just in case things move around. We don't want to scratch up the paint at all. The mounting is actually one of the easier parts to do. Using just a floor jack, you can put it under the center front of the bumper, and as long as it's aligned on both sides on the bottom, as you start jacking up, it slowly pivots into place. Now, I totally forgot to remove this plastic air dam, so I did that just using a flathead screwdriver and then tapped some of them out with a hammer. Once that's gone, it swings right up in there.
All right, so we've got it mounted on there. We've got a little bit of a gap on this side, and as you go around, it's pretty tight, but then less gap on this side, but still a gap in there. We've got these 2 bolts on the bottom. This piece sticking out is the shim. Not really sure how that's supposed to work, but that doesn't look good. So the other 2 mounting bolts are in there, 1 and 2. Those are where the old crash bar went. It's on there, pretty good. I've messed around with the alignment a ton, loosening up this side to try to get that side to go up a little bit more and pushing it. All right, let's take this tape off and get all of these bolts torqued down. We'll make sure they're all nice and tight.
Here you can see how much of that liner is hanging down in the front now that the stock bumper is gone. We obviously don't want that just hanging out, and at this time I didn't want to remove it completely. So what I did is I found a line or a crease that's already in there, got a razor and just cut all of the excess out. All right, we got the bumper thrown on there, and you know, there's really only one way to describe it. It looks pretty radical. There's a lot of other trucks out there running their bumpers, but I think by far this one is the most unusual looking, the highest clearance, the highest lines on it, all that stuff. It's definitely a different looking bumper, and when you see it on trucks that have a lift in tires, I think it looks really cool. On the stock Colorado, it does look a little different, but right now, it's really just a tool, something to make the Colorado drive a little bit better off-road, give us some more protection, and eventually mount that winch in there, which is going to be awesome. Now, putting this bumper on was a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. I've never torn down the grill and the bumper off a Colorado before, and I know a lot of people do that to put a new grill on there. Seems like a lot of work to do it for the grill, honestly. We're going to have to take this bumper off eventually to throw the winch on there, and I'm honestly not looking forward to it. The mounting of the bumper is not very difficult, but the alignment side to side, up and down, is extremely difficult to get lined up. Even right now, it's not perfect on there. The gap on one side is just a little bit bigger than the other side. Probably not noticeable to anyone else, but definitely noticeable to me, so I want to get that tightened up eventually. The bumper does come with directions. They look like this. It's just a sheet of paper with a bunch of text on both sides, and that is awesome because it does tell you what size sockets you're going to need and what kind of tools to get these different parts off. But if you're like me and you're not too familiar with tearing apart the front of a Colorado, it's not really that helpful because I don't really know what those pieces are called or where they're located. There were a few times when I took the bolts out and it was a different size than what the directions mentioned. But my biggest critique for this is the directions do not have a single picture in them. You know, I usually don't use directions for this kind of stuff, but I like to go through it before we get started just to make sure I'm not going to get this front end torn apart and then realize, whoops, I didn't have the tools I needed. And now I got to go to work and I don't have a truck and all that. So anyways, that's my one critique. I wish the directions were a little bit better. I think it could have sped things up for me, but it's not a huge deal. We've got it done. And, you know, after you do this one time, it's like, yeah, I got it now. I could do it, you know, way faster the second time, obviously. It's a pretty bare bumper right now. It looks kind of weird with those light pod areas being empty. You know, you can kind of just see right through them. You can see that white behind the body. I'm hopefully going to end up painting that all black or cutting off what I don't need. That way it just looks a little bit better. It doesn't look like bodies hanging down under there. Obviously we've got lights, a winch, some way to mount our cool custom license plate on there, and then we're going to do the rear bumper soon. So stay tuned for that stuff. If you want to see how this Colorado is coming together, we're trying to get this thing set up for some overlanding or, you know, just some adventuring, rock sliders, a rooftop tent, a roof rack, all that stuff. We've got a ton of stuff coming for the Colorado, so stay tuned. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you go down there and subscribe. That way you can see when these videos come out. Guys, if there's something specific you want to see, let me know. Go down there in the comments and just type it in, and, you know, I'll get more detail on that part, or I'll make a video covering that installation, whatever it is. So thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.